You all may be familiar with the popular Sonic the Hedgehog movies done by Jeff Fowler and Paramount. They're great movies for any casual and diehard Sonic fans to enjoy. But what if I told you those movies weren't the first Sonic movies? What if I told you that there was a Sonic movie made way back in 1996? Sonic the Hedgehog OVA, original video animation, also known in the US as Sonic the Hedgehog the movie, was made by Studio Pierrot and General Entertainment as a potential concept to make a full-length Sonic anime. The studio made 2 episodes, called Welcome to Eggmanland and Sonic vs. Metal Sonic, with the 2 being combined in the States to make a direct-to-video film. Growing up, I had no clue the OVA existed until I was exposed to the internet, and clips showed an iconic scene from the 2nd episode, which we'll be seeing later on in the video. At that point, I had never truly seen Metal Sonic in any games that weren't spin-offs, since this was before the Christian Whitehead ports of Sonic CD hit the shelves. So I was very eager to see how it was, and at the time, it was honestly everything I wanted out of a Sonic movie. The characters felt like how they acted back in the 2000s, the settings were beautiful, the music was amazing, and Metal Sonic as the main threat made it all feel like an actual Sonic movie. But now, with these new sets of films done by Fowler, does the OVA still feel like the definitive Sonic movie? That's the question I aim to answer, as we find out if the Sonic OVA is still good. I watched only the dub for this video since I sadly couldn't find a good version of the Japanese release with subtitles, but I'll go through the 2 episodes and give a run-through of what each episode contains and my thoughts on them. Once again, I have to thank the Internet Archive and the Sonic Wiki Zone for allowing me to watch the film, and for giving me insight into the movie's overarching storyline. The OVA used to be able to be watched on YouTube, but the only way you can watch now on here is through an AI upscaled version. What a drag. And a quick disclaimer, there will be spoilers for the post-credit scene from Sonic 3, as well as comparisons to the trilogy as a whole. So if you haven't watched the movies yet, I thank you for coming by. But please watch them first, you won't regret it. But without further ado, let's get on with episode 1, Welcome to Eggmanland. The episode starts off with Dr. Robotnik proclaiming that he's finished his latest and greatest invention to end Sonic, a version of Metal Sonic called the Hyper Metal Sonic. He only needs to lure Sonic to Robotropolis and capture his DNA to complete Metal. Back in the Land of the Sky, we're introduced to our main characters, Sonic and Tails, as they hang out at the shore near the ruins of multiple crashed airplanes and ships. Tails attempts to get Sonic to check out the new bodyboard he invented, but Sonic would rather just jam out to some rockin' tunes while sunbathing. While riding his board and pestering Sonic, Tails runs into Old Man Owl, who says he has a message for the 2. However, since he's a blind owl, he doesn't even notice his aircraft engine's on fire. Tails tries to have Sonic help him, but doesn't want to cooperate, leading Tails to help the old man himself. Tails is able to keep the aircraft steady, but they're heading straight for a cliff, leading Tails to yell for Sonic's help. Sensing that something's wrong, Sonic leaps into action, saving the 2 right before the aircraft crashes into the cliff. After the close call, the old man tells Sonic and Tails that the president has urgent business to discuss with them, so the duo flies off in the tornado and heads to the presidential house. However, when they get there, they find Robotnik had captured the president and his daughter Sarah. While Sonic doesn't want to listen, the president insists that he and Tails should hear Robotnik out since the entirety of Planet Freedom is at stake. Begrudgingly, Sonic agrees and Robotnik begins to explain the situation. Planet Freedom is split into 2 dimensions, the Land of the Sky in the outer section, where Sonic and the others live, and the Land of Darkness, where Robotnik and the capital city of Robotropolis are located. He reveals that Metal Robotnik and his army of demonic robots had taken over Robotropolis, and banished him and his guard robots. Along with taking over the city, Metal Robotnik had also sabotaged the robot generator used to power the city, causing the overwhelming amounts of energy to completely annihilate the planet if it isn't turned off before sunrise the next day. So, with that in mind, Robotnik says Sonic should be the one to traverse the Land of Darkness, get through Metal Robotnik's traps, and shut off the generator. Sonic initially declines because he doesn't want to clean up Robotnik's mess, but after some convincing from the president and Sarah, he and Tails agree to take on the task. Robotnik supplies Tails with a navigator to help him traverse the Land of Darkness and find the fastest route to Robotropolis. They then head off on the tornado while Robotnik and Sarah play video games at the presidential house. Then, a giant robot crashes into the house where Robotnik and Sarah go inside it as she wants to take a ride, and threatens to stop being Robotnik's hostage if he doesn't take her. Meanwhile, our heroes head to the entrance of the Land of Darkness, whose unsafe nature damages the tornado, and they have to keep moving on foot towards Robotropolis. After holding off some badniks and jumping through spike traps, the two find a warp cell and take it to an abandoned city where a looming presence greets them. This figure introduces itself as Metal Robotnik and begins to attack the two, who exclaim they have no time to deal with him as they evade his offensive. As they taunt the mecha monstrosity, Metal Robotnik reveals his wings and chases the two down to the end of a broken bridge. Just in the nick of time, Sonic stops before they drop down into the river, but that's when Metal Robotnik catches up and plunges them into the water below. Luckily, on their way down, Sonic and Tails catch a hold of a loose steel beam and trick Metal Robotnik into thinking they're gone. Once they make their way back up, they're caught by Metal Robotnik, who begins to shoot glue projectiles that trap Tails on a fence, but luckily Sonic swoops in with one of Metal Robotnik's missiles and damages him. After that, Metal Robotnik begins to break the ground beneath them, with each step his broken shell takes, leading to rising water and unstable footing for Sonic, who's also trapped in the glue. But again, just in the nick of time, Knuckles knocks over Metal Robotnik and frees Tails, leading him to rescue Sonic and deliver the final blow to Metal Robotnik, as his remains fall into the sea. After the battle, the gang catches up with Knuckles and notices that Robotropolis is ahead as the sun sets, signaling their time is almost up. As Sonic and Tails head towards Robotropolis, Knuckles decides to tag along in case they need the help, and they venture onwards, leading to the episode's end. This episode is a very good tone setter for the whole movie. They establish all the main characters, their personalities, their dynamics with each other, and everything in between in just 25 minutes. I'll talk about the topic of the characters' personalities more later, but I do want to say now that I love how much of a jerk Sonic can be in this interpretation. He's impatient and doesn't cooperate easy, but he's still got a heart of gold and will go out of his way to help his friends and save the planet he lives for. He just screams 90s in the way he acts and in the way the animators pose him. Dude, he even flips off Metal Robotnik. This hedgehog is a nuisance, dude. The lead up to Metal Sonic's reveal in episode 2 left me eager back then and now to see what happens next. And speaking of which, let's go straight to that episode, titled Sonic vs. Metal Sonic. The episode picks up where the first left off, with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles infiltrating the city of Robotropolis. As they dodge and weave attacks from badniks inhabiting the area, Sonic's able to dash towards the robot generator and shut it down in the nick of time. That's when, in an unexpected turn of events, the generator captures Sonic in an electrical force field and falls apart soon after. Knuckles swoops in and saves Sonic from the rubble, where they see a figure standing in what used to be the robot generator, which is the now completed Hyper Metal Sonic. And as if things couldn't get any worse for Team Sonic, the remains of Metal Robotnik appear behind Metal Sonic, ready to attack the team. However, the robotic husk is just a mere decoy, revealing that Robotnik and Sarah were piloting Metal Robotnik the whole time. Sonic then charges at Robotnik, with Metal jumping in to protect him. Robotnik then explains that his plan with the robot generator overclocking was a ploy to lure Sonic into giving his DNA to copy into his Hyper Metal Sonic, making him the ultimate robot capable of killing Sonic and destroying the land of the sky. The part about the generator exploding was still true, but that made his plan all the sweeter for the mad scientist. Sonic demands that Robotnik release Sarah, but he must go through Metal first. By Robotnik's command, Metal ambushes Sonic while he's caught up in his own ego, leaving him vulnerable to Metal's destructive attack. The battle then moves above Robotropolis, as Sonic tries to get his bearings on top of a mountain, where Metal shows no mercy and decks him with a devastating kick to the head. Sonic then falls off the mountain, leaving Robotnik to claim himself as the winner of the fight, as Tails and Knuckles retreat to find another way to beat Metal. As the morning sun dawns, Sonic has a vision of Metal terrorizing the Old Man Owl, which prompts him to awaken and set off to find Metal. Knuckles and Tails then arrive at the beach where they find that the old man's wearing Sonic's favorite clothes. When Tails asks about it, the owl says that Sonic forced him to wear the clothes, then flew away, leading them to the conclusion that it was Metal Sonic. As Metal rampages through the land of the sky, Tails tinkers with Robotnik's navigator to potentially use it against Metal, since both are made from the same mechanical parts. Knuckles expresses worries that Sonic and Metal won't be in the same place, but Tails reassures him by explaining that since Metal has Sonic's DNA programmed into his system, he's operating on the same thoughts, personality, feelings, and everything else as the original Sonic. And the same goes for Sonic himself. They're like identical twins, or in Metal's case, he thinks he's the real Sonic. As the president oversees the destruction done by Metal, he questions if it's Sonic causing all of this when Tails and Knuckles intervene. We then cut to Sarah and Robotnik, who says they'll have to repopulate to ensure the survival of the human race once Metal destroys the land of the sky. Alright then, I guess. Once Tails and Knuckles catch the president up on everything that's happened with Metal, Knuckles reveals that there are magma veins towards the North Pole that'll melt the ice holding the land of the sky together, causing the continents to drift out into space if they melt. Metal Sonic is already making his way there, but in the nick of time, Sonic arrives hearing about the danger Metal poses. He then dashes off to confront his doppelganger, but he's too late as Metal has already hit the point of destruction. Everyone makes their way towards the North Pole, with Tails getting ready to override Metal's memory so Sonic's personality overrides Robotnik's programming. The two Sonics then get ready for their big fight, with the last Sonic standing being the winner. They then clash once more, with Sonic holding his own a lot better than he did last time they fought. Sonic comes to the same conclusion as Tails did, with Metal knowing everything he's going to do. But that won't help him since Sonic knows everything Metal's going to do as well. Strange, isn't it? As Sarah and Robotnik warp in from a warp zone, they get caught in the crossfire and Sarah falls from the Eggmobile with Knuckles saving her. And then, Tails hits Metal with the tornado, which promptly gets shot down by one of Robotnik's missiles. After saving Sarah, Knuckles is convinced by a kiss from her to redirect the magma from the ice bridge, which ends up leaving his hat on fire. As Metal has his hands around Sonic's neck, Sarah tries fending him off while Tails hacks into Metal's programming, which works, giving Sonic enough time to give him a spin dash and stop his destruction. And once again, as if things couldn't get worse, the Old Man Owl and the President show up in a shuttle that crashes into the ice bridge, leaving them stuck inside while magma slowly makes its way towards them. Sonic and Tails attempt to save them before the ship explodes, but not before Metal returns and Robotnik destroys Tails' navigator. The two face off one last time, with Sonic being able to overpower Metal due to how much damage Metal sustained throughout the two fights. But in the end, Sonic was too late. The ship holding the President and the Old Man Owl had blown up, but in a twist of fate, Metal is the one that saved them, Sonic realizing he does have feelings like him. After that, Metal got hit with a piece of rubble and is close to succumbing to the magma. Sonic reaches down to help him, with Knuckles securing him so Metal doesn't drag him down with him, but Metal then slaps the hand reaching out to him, saying there's only one Sonic, as he's melted in the magma. After the fight, Sonic reflects on Metal's sacrifice as Sarah and Tails attempt to cheer him up. It's there when Robotnik swoops in and reveals that he still has Sonic's data saved on a disk, where he'll create a new and stronger robot using it. Then, the turtle missile from earlier latches onto it and destroys the data, causing his plan to be fully thwarted. As everyone laughs, Knuckles then hits Sonic on the head as payback for stomping on him during the scuffle with Metal. The two chase each other down as the others follow suit, leading to the episode's end with Sonic racing off towards the next adventure. Where the first episode was pretty good, this one blew it completely out of the water. Metal Sonic is immediately shown to be a force to be reckoned with, being able to solo Sonic in their first encounter, and cause so much destruction in one day. Tails' ingenuity in turning the Navigator into a hacking device shows his technical prowess, like with his bodyboard, highlighting him being a really good team player here. And speaking of the team, Knuckles did a great job too, saving Sarah from her fall and redirecting the magma to not melt the ice bridge. Everyone pulled their weight and did something meaningful to save the day. Overall, everything from the action-packed fights with Metal to the exposition of how Sonic and Metal share thoughts makes this one of the best and most faithful adaptations of the Sonic games in another form of media. If there's one thing I would say is wrong about this episode, it's the whole getting married and repopulating thing with Sarah and Robotnik. While I have no clue how old Sarah is, you can assume she's about a teenager, while Robotnik's still implied to be anywhere from like 40 to like 50 years old, which, you know, yikes. That's a little weird. But besides that little bit there, this episode was flawless, no notes. I love Metal Sonic. Oh my gosh. I just love how threatening he is. That is something the current games now don't really highlight a lot. Like, I'm sure I'll be getting into this later, but nowadays, Metal Sonic is more so like a secondary, like, little boss fight to do here and there, and that's about it. Especially with this, he was shown to be a force to be reckoned with. As a whole, this movie to me still stands the test of time. Watching this as a kid compared to now, I enjoyed it so much more watching it with the knowledge of these characters. While some line deliveries can be a bit goofy at times, the animation errors may show a little bit, but I still stand by my statement that this OVA is one of the most faithful adaptations of Sonic I have ever seen in a medium that isn't video games. Everyone is written exactly how I would imagine them. Sonic's an impatient and cocky hero with a heart of gold. Tails is a genius, but is still a kid who's afraid of lightning, but can step up when needed. Knuckles is a cool and tough guy who occasionally butts heads with Sonic, and so on and so forth. Actually, thinking about it, these versions of the characters remind me of their characterization in Sonic Adventure, which came out 2 years after this OVA was released in Japan. And crazier than that, the OVA was released in the States 2 days before Adventure's release. There are some similarities, specifically with Sonic's balance of being short-tempered yet always jumping to save those he cares for, and the technical genius of Tails, just to name a few. And speaking of similarities to the games, something this OVA brought over from the games may not be very evident right away, but it's genius. Notice how Sonic's Planet Freedom is divided into 2 sections? The Land of the Sky is a place where there's minimal technology and is mostly filled with nature, while the Land of Darkness is a place that's filled with abandoned and broken cities, with Robotropolis being the capital of the land filled to the brim with technology, electricity, artificial life, etc. This interpretation brought over one of the biggest elements of the classic Sonic games, being the fight between environmentalism versus industrialization. While those original Sonic games didn't have much of a story, it's a common belief that there were themes of nature versus technology present as early as the very first Sonic game on the Genesis. Robotnik represents the rapid rise of machines and automation with mankind, wanting to turn every forest and animal into cities and robots to fuel his empire, while Sonic represents nature and the wind that blows free. He fights to prevent technology from taking over the natural world. The contrast between the 2 lands in the OVA, to me, fits the bill perfectly for representing this theme. And speaking of those lands, can I just say that I absolutely love how this show's background and environments look. Like, whenever I see these, I think to myself, yeah, that is the exact vibe I want for Classic Sonic. And you know what else is a vibe I want for Classic Sonic going forward? The music direction, because oh my god, I adore the soundtrack. It is a perfect blend of electric, hip-hop, rock, and even some ambient music here and there, and it's just so good! It's similar to the CD and Sega Saturn era of Sonic music. It reeks of pure 90s attitude, and that's exactly what classic Sonic's about to me. And while we're just spitballing praises for the OVA, let me tell you, I love the voices of these characters. Martin Burke as Sonic, Laney Frazier as Tails, Bill Wise as Knuckles, and Edwin Neal as Robotnik. They all sound exactly how I imagine they would sound as their classic counterparts. Sonic's a little nasally, but still has that cool dude voice that everyone knows him for. Tails sounds like a cute kid, and I love that for his character. Knuckles sounds mellow, but it's still a little rough, not leaning too much into the dude bro energy. And Robotnik sounds goofy and serious all at the same time. These are the perfect voices for the classic cast in my opinion. Maybe minus Sonic and Robotnik just for the fact I grew up with The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog with Jaleel White and Long John Baldry as the 2. But Burke and Neal's work on this project was absolutely stellar. And now, with all my praises and critiques out of the way, we can finally answer the question, is the Sonic OVA still good? And the answer is a resounding yes. It's got something for any Sonic fan to enjoy in my opinion. Top-notch music and visuals, a story that's deep and meaningful, a voice cast that fits the characters perfectly. It's such a shame the OVA isn't easily accessible these days. Now another question is, do I like this film more than the Paramount Sonic movies? And to be honest, I don't really know. The OVA I enjoy more for being an almost one-to-one adaptation from video game to movie, while the new films I like for being different from the source material while still somewhat staying true to it. I can say, at the very least, I like this movie better than the first Sonic film from Paramount. No offense, but the OVA leaves a much stronger impression on me compared to it, and the fact that, you know, it's an actual Sonic movie. But when it comes to Sonic 2 or 3, you'll have to come back to me on that one. I truly don't know. And with that, I've gone over everything I wanted to regarding the Sonic OVA. But let me tell you, this was quite a fun one to cover. Ever since seeing the post-credit scene of Sonic 3, I wanted to go back to this movie and see how it compares to the new movies, and it holds its own very well. I encourage you, if you're still here, to first like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell, you already know. Then, go to the Internet Archive and watch the film through them. It'll still be a great experience even after I dissected it, and you may even pick up on some elements that I've missed. And if you do, be sure to let me know in the comments, or just talk about your experience with the OVA. I'd love to hear from y'all. But for now, that's all the time I've got. Stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace!